Welcome to Healthy Living with the Bourgeois podcast. Today I'm going to be your host. I'm Chantel Bourgeois. This is my husband, Jesse. Today's podcast is actually titled The Jesse Special because today is Jesse's birthday. How's your birthday been so far?
It's been really good.
Nice.
It's been pretty chill. Really good food, time with friends and family, playing some games. It's March, so the weather's always super unpredictable. So when it comes to planning, it's never easy. So sorry that you have to navigate that every year.
You're super good about it this year, so thank you too.
But it's been excellent. And I just want to, so because of time-wise, we filmed some other episodes before this one,
Yes.
but we're probably going to use this as our first one. So these next couple podcasts that come out, it might seem like we're like doing more of an intro after the fact. That is, in fact, the case. These are not going to be in chronological order at the beginning. We just wanted to test around and get some feel for it before we started publishing them. So just an FYI.
Okay. Are you ready to jump into some questions from throughout your life?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. Let's go back to 8-year-old Jesse. What was 8-year-old Jesse like? What did you want to be when you grew up? What was going on?
Yeah, so I had to Google it to see what grade I was in when I was 8, just to like give some life context to try to remember. So 8 years old, if Google is correct, I would have been in grade 2 is when I would have been like 7 turning 8. So I would have been homeschooled. So grade 2, I would have been homeschooled. And I think both of my siblings would have still been homeschooled as well. Because Joel's 5 years older, so he would have been in grade 7. I'm pretty sure. And then Sean would have been homeschooled as well. So we still all would have been at home. And I was trying to remember what that time period was like. And it just all amalgamates in my head into like that span of our life. So, it was... I have a lot of fond memories of those years of like doing school at home, spending lots of time, doing like piano lessons and music for young children. And I think that would be around the age a lot of those things started. Mm-hmm. So started doing piano probably around that age. I think I started doing hockey around that age as well, if I'm remembering correctly. So a lot of those types of sort of extracurricular activities were starting to happen, which was really cool. So a lot of good memories of around that time frame. In regards to what I wanted to do, I have no idea.
Oh, really?
I can't remember for the life of me. Like in grade 7, we did like that letter to self thing. Yeah. So that's like way later. That's 5 years after that. So it was like 12 turning 13. That's when there was like hints of like health and fitness starting to come forward. Mm-hmm. But I doubt that was the case when I was that young. Mm-hmm. And I don't remember ever having like I know some people are like, oh, they want to do like become a police officer or a firefighter or whatever. I don't remember if any of those things were highlighted to me when I was that age.
Yeah, I feel like thinking about that age too. Like I'm a younger sibling as well. You kind of just like follow in your siblings' footsteps until you get to like 12, 13 when you like start to become your own person and figure out things for yourself. So yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, and I'm assuming it's probably similar. I was probably that annoying little 8-year-old that was like chasing both of my siblings around.
Yeah, probably.
Trying to get them to play with me and do fun things.
I wonder, did you start swimming lessons then? Because we went to swimming lessons when we were kids, and I can't remember when... how old we would have been. We might have crossed paths.
Could be.
Around those years.
Yeah, because I want to say we did swimming lessons from pretty early on. Yeah. So it very well could be the case. Maybe that's where you and I met.
Yeah. Well, little 8-year-old Jesse. Cool. Let's bounce forward to 18-year-old Jesse. So what have you accomplished in those years, and then what were your goals for the future?
Yeah, so I was thinking about this of 18-year-old me. On my 18th birthday, we had a pretty big party at my dad's house. This was sort of on the tail end of my partying years. So still a lot of negative lifestyle behaviors, I feel like, at that time. Like a lot of drinking, a lot of partying, and really not knowing sort of who I was. From like an accomplishment perspective, sort of like the typical things through your youth, right? Nothing like sort of extraordinary by any means, but like hockey, piano, all those types of things. I hadn't really gotten into like specific accomplishments yet. Worked all through high school, stuff like that. Things that I'm sure from like a parent's perspective are probably like, oh, great that my kid is doing these things.
Yeah.
But for me, it just seems like the normal things that you do when you're in that age range from like 8 to 18. But being 18 is such an interesting year. And I was thinking about this because it's like, that's the year when typically you're very focused on like your social relationships and different things. But it's also when you graduate, you sort of have it in there's this perspective that it's all coming to a close, that this stage is about to wrap up.
Yeah.
And you're getting ready to sort of take on the world in a sense, whether it's like university or travel or trades or work or whatever it might be that you're going into. So I remember for me being 18, very much like being very low self-awareness as to like who I actually am, to the point where I really wasn't sure what I wanted to do moving forward. I had a lot of sort of like self-doubt and debate around university and what I actually wanted to do at university and these different things. The health and fitness sort of kinesiology end of things was something that was really interesting to me, but so was psychology and sort of a lot of these other components. And in hindsight, I'm really grateful for the sort of social pressures that I had to get me past that stage. My parents, teachers, even friends that were a little bit more mature than me at that time, that were encouraging of, go to university, kind of get away from the sort of party scene from Creston, see what life has to offer and pursue these things that were passions, but were passions that had been clouded by the environment that I was in. Because I don't think at the time I really understood how much those things meant to me, because I didn't actually really know me yet. So it's an interesting, thinking of being 18 was a really interesting year of being in that kind of like party stage to graduating to moving out for the first time and going to university, meeting university friends, really realizing how much I enjoy the different aspects of health and fitness, and really getting into the gym more, and having a friend group that actually was a little bit more positive to personal development rather than just kind of party focused, was really good for me. And that 18 to 19 transition, I think, was probably one of the biggest life transitions that I had up to this point. But yeah, that was sort of me at 18. Was if I talked to my 18-year-old self, it would be a very like, what are you doing? Like, why are you acting like this? Why are you doing these things? You like, because you're sort of smart enough to know better, but you just like,
but you're still like wanting to fit in and all that kind of stuff. And yeah,
very much so.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Okay, let's bounce forward again. You're now 28. 3-part question. Ready?
Shoot.
Are you where you thought you would be at this age? What have you accomplished so far? And what are your goals for the next 10 years?
Okay. Am I where I thought I would be? Yes and no at the same time. Am I where I thought I would be if you asked like 18-year-old me? Probably not. I think at that point when I had sort of accepted that I was leaving Creston, I really didn't think I was going to come back. So from just a physical where I thought I would be, probably not. I also didn't really think that in my 20s I would be married or have a house or these types of things, just from looking at other people in their 20s that I knew at that time.
Right.
So it wasn't something that I had really like settled into. Since graduating, well, even still, like if I think of even from the last 5 years, I still don't think I would have predicted that this is where I would be. And there's been so much change over that time frame that it's been really hard to predict what the outcomes were really going to look like. And that's not the easiest thing for me because I like to plan and kind of have like an idea in my head of what I'm working towards. But it really has been kind of ride the wave for the last, 10 years really, of just like seeing where life takes me, finishing university and thinking, oh, I'll stay in Kelowna or do a master's or whatever it might be. All of a sudden a job pops up and I'm back in Creston, and then that turns into a full-time job, and then us reunite. Like there's been all of these things that I never could have predicted would happen that have been super impactful into determining where the direction that my life was going to go. But it's very cool. It's all been amazing things, but very unpredictable things. But yeah, what was the second part of that question?
What have you accomplished so far?
Oh, accomplished so far. 18 to 28. I'll use that as like the time frame. Yeah. So I had graduated high school, went to university. So since I was 18, I did 5 years of university. So bachelor's in human kinetics. The focus was clinical exercise physiology. Minored in psychology. So I was there for 5 instead of 4. Worked as a residence advisor for 3 of those years. A great experience, super fun. Really got into the health and fitness realm, like to the point where it ingrained into my identity. Not just something that I enjoyed. It really did become part of who I am and a large part of who I am. So that transition was really cool because I think that also from like partying 18-year-old to, even when I was 20, I would have been, going to bed between 8:30 and 9, getting up between 4:30 and 5 so I could get a long workout in before going to class, not really going out on the weekends. And like a very big turn or pivot happened in kind of like a couple year frame because it became so much of who I was, being sort of like that health and fitness type of person. Not always in a positive way. When I was at university, I remember I would get like the personal sized pizzas from the cafeteria, and I would hide it in my gym bag and take it to my room and eat it alone. Because
you didn't want people to see healthy Jesse carrying pizza.
Yeah. So there was a lot, like there was components of it that I definitely hadn't sort of dealt with, or I had placed too much of my self-worth in that image rather than it being a tool for me. I was like trying to represent it, if that makes sense. So I'm happy that transition has changed over the sort of like the 8 years since then kind of thing. And then other accomplishments, it's funny because I always think of I got a job, it has benefits, we got a house, like these types of things. And I'm happy about those things. And like, I'm proud that we've been able to do what we've been able to do. But from like an accomplishment standpoint, the things that to me are a lot more of a highlight is like us getting married and going on adventures and all the things that we've gotten to do together, getting the cats, getting the dog, intentionally trying to align our life with our values. Those types of things are, I can see how negative it could be to not do those things, how poor my life would feel without them, that those are of a greater significance or a greater sense of accomplishment to me than the more kind of traditional financial types of things. Like even if we were living in the small little rental that we were before we bought this house, I would still feel very fortunate for those accomplishments. It's kind of just a privileged bonus to be in a position where we were able to get a house and get the job that I had was largely because I had other people who knew me and kind of looked out for me and supported me in those decisions. So those are just like privileged benefits that I've received. Whereas these other things feel a lot, I'm very, very happy about those other accomplishments.
Oh, I like your view on that. That's cool. Awesome. Okay, thinking back, did you have a favorite birthday?
Favorite birthday? A couple stick out in my mind. When I was, I want to say 15, I had a friend that grew up up the street from me, the Sontags, and they've been phenomenal to me all throughout my youth. Taking me on hockey trips, early morning practices, getting me breakfast before and after those practices and different things, driving me to school. The amount of times that I've spent time there. Matthew's always been super supportive of everything that I've done. And that relationship with him and his family has been super important to me over the years. And when I think it was my 15th birthday, we left on my 15th birthday. They took me to Hawaii. Right. So I think I think that was the day that we like left. We spent a night in Spokane and then a night in San Francisco before we actually got to Hawaii. But my birthday day was the day that kind of like kicked off the whole thing. And it was just by coincidence. It wasn't like a planned thing, obviously. I think my birthday happened to fall sort of in relation to spring break was why it all kind of worked out that way. So that one was really cool because it was very novel and a really cool experience that was sort of attached to my birthday. And then it would have been, I think, before that, and I don't remember what year it was exactly, but for my birthday, we got Mario, a dog that, the second childhood dog that I had, a miniature Schnauzer. And that was, again, it was a family dog and everything. Yeah. But I was the one who, in particular, really wanted a small dog. And that was kind of attached to my birthday. So that was a really special birthday as well. Mm-hmm. Other than that, it's just like, I'm trying to think of other birthdays that were, every year is special kind of in its own, and it's different ways. Like the first birthday that we were married together was really cool because we had, the whole thing was like us planning it and experiencing it all together, which was new for us. Like that type of thing was really special. Yeah. And I'm sure there's lots that one that actually came to mind. It was kind of funny. And because I wonder how many other people had this, but there was like a book of cakes that I think a lot of parents, like our generation's parents probably had the same book. And my mom made, I think it was like the dump truck cake that was in it. And then we got to fill it with candy. And I remember going to Over Ready at the time. And getting to like help pick out the candy that was going to go into this I think it was that would be
your favorite birthday, Jesse. For those of you who don't know, Jesse has a little bit of a sweet tooth.
just a little bit. And I like vividly remember that. And hilarious. I can't imagine I was very old at that time. My mom's probably so mad that like of all the birthdays she probably put so much time and energy into that like that's the one I remember is the one with cake and candy. But
that's awesome.
Yeah.
Cool. If you could go back and tell your 8-year-old self something, one piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, my 8-year-old self. I'm trying to think of how smart, what level of cognition did I have at 8 years old that I would understand, that I'd be able to grasp if I told myself something. You know, around that age range, it probably would be very similar to what I would tell even my 18-year-old self of focus on the things that I genuinely find interesting rather than what I think other people would think I'm interesting for finding interesting. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it would all the advice would center around focusing on my relationship with myself rather than my relationship with other people. Right. Not that it's it's a great thing to focus on your relationship with other people.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
But in those age ranges, I think the idea of a relationship with myself was a totally foreign thing. Like not even something that I really considered. Yeah. All of the thoughts were more around, like fitting in and connecting with other people rather than actually getting to know myself in those different stages of my life. So I guess it would be like trying to convince myself in some way to develop some self-awareness in my younger years and not only that, but have the confidence or the tools to act on it. Because I think maybe that's just the case of development, but you're sort of a follower for so long of your youth, and I wasn't much of like a leader in those earlier years of my life. Not saying that I am now either, but leader in the sense of like being comfortable following like the beat of my own drum type of thing. And I'm hoping I did at least a bit. I would like to think that I did, but I probably did less than I actually think.
That's interesting. I like that. Okay, last question.
Shoot.
You kind of already sort of answered some of it, but if you think back from all of your 28 years now, what is something that you're most proud of? Could be an accomplishment. Oh, yeah.
It's so challenging to pinpoint one thing, and pride all in itself is a concept with baggage attached to it in a way. And the reason I say that is I never want to have the mentality of something has been completed. And sometimes I find when I start feeling like proud of something, it almost is like it can go on the shelf now. And I the things that I immediately come to my mind, I don't want to treat that way. Like for a great example is our relationship.
Right.
I'm very happy and proud of the fact that, you know, even despite maybe some social pressures and different things, that we went through with our wedding the way that we wanted to, when we wanted to, how we wanted to an extent. There's it's
never
yes, it's never entirely what there was some compromise with other external parties, but I also never want to think of like our relationship as I'm proud of it, and therefore it's not something that we can just always be continuously developing. You know what I mean? But that is a big one for me. Same as all of the things around being comfortable in pursuing my interests and values with greater confidence than sort of progressively more confidence, I guess I should say. Because I wouldn't say that any of them I'm at a point where, you know, I'm totally comfortable and confident pursuing them or advocating for them. But it's grown over the years of, at this point, I'm very pleased that like fitness is just part of life now. It's not something that is like explicitly, you know, feels like this foreign thing that we're always trying to include. It's just part of what we do. And I'm very pleased that that's the case and that it's gotten to that point. And even like, you know, things that in the past couple of years of starting, you know, the kind of our path with like the whole vegan thing has been something that it felt so taboo to me, or like I almost didn't want to admit to it, which is interesting. And it's because of like, it felt like there was like this social pressure to like sort of conform with the majority and don't be one of like those people, you know what I mean? And that influenced me a lot. And even over the past couple of years, that's influenced me a lot. So I'm really happy that it's getting to the point where I feel more comfortable just like that is something that's a value to me, and I'll advocate for it and I can talk about it and don't feel this weird like social, I don't even know how to explain it. Like it's this negative perception of myself because somebody else might view it negatively. Like take that on and hold it myself kind of thing. I'm starting to go down a tangent, but there's lots of these little things, and there's also a lot. I can't help but have it bring up things that I'm happy that I've explored or started to pursue, but there's like so much more before I would feel sort of like quote unquote proud about it.
That's cool. I like that.
Thanks.
Did you say, I don't think we answered this one yet, your goals, and we'll end off with this last one for the next 10 years. So looking forward,
Yeah.
What are some of your goals?
It's crazy to think that it's like the difference of life from 8 to 18 seems so just vast. Like you're such a
huge.
different person. And then even 18 to 28, it seems like there's been so much that's happened from like the days from when I first got to university to now. So much has changed.
Yeah.
But 28 to 38 seems like it could be possible that very little changes. And maybe I'm just scared of that. And maybe that's why I see it that way, is that I'm just afraid of becoming stagnant. But I think there's some truth to it, that it's starting to get into those decades where it's easy to kind of fall into the same routine and maybe, I don't want to say rut, but just a slowing of growth. So I was thinking about, we talked a little bit about these questions before, and I was trying to think of like specific goals, but I'm going to keep it relatively vague and broad.
Yeah.
And one of them is just that pursuing growth, not settling into any sort of kind of stagnant thing, which creates some sort of scary thoughts to me, because it's like, to do that means like I want to continue to progress in my career, however that looks. If I'm in the same job I am now in 10 years, I'll be upset. And it doesn't mean that I want to like drastically change things, but I would hope that over the next 10 years, I can grow and show myself to be valuable in a role that's beyond what I'm currently doing. That's like something that's come to, if I think of the things where the practical outcome of continuing to grow, there's some, it's like, ooh, that could be interesting. And it makes me a little bit nervous, because there is this like stability that we're on right now, that I get how it's like, okay, we're just going to like hold the fort and not rock the boat too much. But it's like, I do want to continue to rock the boat and try to grow and develop over the next 10 years. So that's one thing. Other goals that come to mind, I want to write a book, whether that's in the next 10 years.
Keep him accountable, you guys. He's going to do it.
I don't see myself as a great writer, but I see myself as someone who has the potential to learn to write in such a way that it's not going to be like this phenomenal piece of literature by any means, but could be beneficial for somebody. And that's really like the objective of like a book that I think of pursuing. And that's something that is like really appealing to me. So I don't know if that would be in the next 10 years or the next 20 maybe, or the next 30. But starting that pursuit is something that I would really like to do in the next 10 years. Continuing this type of thing is also something where I always feel pulled to be giving something. And I don't know exactly where that comes from. And I haven't always had the best relationship with it, where it's like, for some reason, I just feel this like I have to be trying to educate or share the things that I'm learning, rather than just like holding them and like learning it for me and using it for my own life. I can't help but want to put it out there for other people in some way, shape, or form. And it's like, maybe that's just like super egotistical, and I'm just like putting myself as like the center of attention all the time. No. I hope that's not the case, and I don't think it is. I think it's more that teaching is something that I hold very close to me and that I really enjoy. So I'd love to continue to do that in some way, shape, or form. I hope in 10 years we're still doing exactly this, and doing a podcast, or some sort of blog, or some sort of like continuous speaking events or workshops or something. That type of pursuit is also something that I really want to sort of establish and do more of over the next 10 years.
That's cool.
And then from there, there's all sorts of other kind of little things, family goals, goals regarding kind of like our home situation, like the physical house that we're in. We're doing renos that go on for forever, and things like that, and like our outdoor space, and travel goals. Like we really want to go to Greece and Italy. I'd love to see that come to fruition in the next 10 years and get to do that.
Me too.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And other things that I would sort of call like stretch goals, kind of like the book thing, but I have this continued itch to either do like a master's degree or some sort of continuing education. That still is there. So maybe it's like my certified strength and conditioning specialist, or like the ISSN, the International Society of Sports Nutrition, has a nutrition qualification that I could work towards. Things like that. I will in some way, shape, or form pursue those types of those goals over the next 10 years. I would like to get to it kind of leads into this goal that, again, is a bit more vague, but having a little bit of a better understanding around, I don't want to say like my niche, but my direction of what I'm most interested in pursuing to learn. I tend to jump around a lot when it comes to the things that are interesting to me and that I want to learn about. And I'd love to see that come together in some way that's a little bit more guiding when it comes to my personal pursuits of education and different things. And I don't know what that's going to look like. I haven't figured it out. I have ideas, and maybe we'll talk about those more in upcoming podcasts and different things. But that's something that I do want to just, with an open mind, continue to explore these different things that I find interesting until it kind of comes together into like something that's a little bit more sort of packaged. Yeah. And maybe that's, not within a box, but somewhat controlled would sort of be the idea. But there's so many things. I could keep going. Like, I would love to get to the point to be someone who can kind of respectfully advocate for the philosophy of veganism in a way that is receptive by people who may not be interested in it in its sort of surface exposure, understanding sort of the harm reduction approach to it, and that it doesn't have to be all or none, but that it's this sort of practical pursuit of creating a better environment and life for everyone, not just us as people, but for animals and for the environment and all of these other things. I'd like to get to that point of being able to communicate that effectively. So I guess in a way, like, communication skills is another thing, which is kind of part of the reason why I was so keen to do this, because I think it helps to talk about these things. And when we listen back and realize that we said like 1,500 times, where we can start to sort of consciously think about those things and try to become more effective communicators and different things like that, are definitely high on my goal list of over the next 10 years. I'd like to be able to get to the point where I look back on this episode, and then when I'm turning 38 in 10 years, I can see a difference in my communication skills and different things like that. But I could go on and on. There's so many different things that would be so much fun to work towards over the next 10 years.
I love that about you. You have such an itch for learning and like the lifelong learning. It's one of the things I love most about you, to be honest. So it's really exciting. And I love that you shared all of your goals, because back in 2018, it would have been, I was like really scared to like continue on my education and what to do and all that kind of thing. And you told me, and I'm probably gonna get the stat wrong, but you told me that if you tell people what you want to do, I think it's like you're 40% more likely to do it. It's like, it's pretty high.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly.
And
either.
Again, like, I also, like, the growth part is like huge to me, and like stepping outside your comfort zones, because that's where you're actually going to grow. But it's scary. It's absolutely scary. So you told me that, and I started telling like people I worked with what I wanted to do, and then I did it, which is really cool. So I'm proud of you, and I'm happy that you shared all those things, because now, like, we're gonna keep you accountable. We want to see that book on our shelves in 10 years or 20 years. It's gonna be awesome. So it's really exciting.
I really appreciate that, and I'm glad it's something that has been beneficial for you as well, in sort of your pursuit of different goals. And we'll have to do this on your birthday coming up this year. I won't say what the number will be. It's a big year. In December, we'll have to do this and flip rolls. And because I have a bunch of questions I want to ask you about that too, but I don't want to get too off topic. But yeah, it's funny. Like, I think even thinking of this was actually something else that came to mind of the difference between 18 and 28. Is I'm really trying to embrace transparency. A lot more transparency or authenticity. I don't know exactly how to categorize it yet, but there's so many things that I feel like are still either taboo to discuss, or that we tend not to talk about openly or publicly, or even with people that we care about, let alone publicly.
Yeah.
And it bothers me for some reason. And I think part of the reason why it bothers me is I was really poor at that when I was younger. I didn't share things that I really should have shared with, friends and loved ones and people that I ended up hurting by not just communicating effectively and not being open and transparent about how I was feeling or different things that were going on in my life. And it would always create this like weird sort of cycle of kind of like guilt and shame, because I felt potentially ashamed of like the feeling that I was feeling. So I didn't want to share it. So then I wouldn't, but then I would end up hurting the person, whatever that looked like, whether it was like a friend of just being off and not communicating effectively or whatever it is. And then that would make me feel bad, because then you don't want to hurt people's feelings. And I think that sort of chaotic state of being in that like 18, 19-year-old age range has really highlighted wanting to be better at that as an adult, of just being honest in a way of like not not making people like when someone asks like, oh, how are you doing, and just going into like a 20, like not in that way, like understanding boundaries of people, for sure, not taking advantage of people who are listening, sort of thing, but open to an extent where hopefully it encourages other people to also be open about these things, that maybe it could solve a lot of stress and mental anguish if it was just sort of talked about or communicated about. And I think that includes goals in these different types of things, where you never know who could potentially support you in a significant way unless you're open and you talk to people about these types of things, right? Even this right now, maybe somebody else who's a friend of ours or who's listening to this also is interested in writing a book and wants an accountability book buddy. And they say, hey, Jesse, I'm also thinking of writing a book and I'm having a hard time getting started. And it sounds like you might be having a hard time getting started. Maybe we could hold each other accountable and work on this together and share resources. You never know. And that alone, like, I think that's one of the things that I've learned the most over the last 10 years is you never really do anything independently. Yeah. Really. Like, in some cases, it might feel that way, but I think it's one of the reasons why, like, the whole discipline, hustly, gym motivation type of culture, it exhausts me a little bit, because it's like, you'd be so much better off rather than feeling like you're this like lone wolf trying to get all fired up to be in the darkness doing your gym stuff, of like, find a friend and be like, hey, I'm kind of having a hard time staying consistent, do you want to help each other? Like, that realistically is probably a way better pursuit. But I feel like for some reason we're not terribly honest about like when we need help. And what's that mean? The 3 hardest things to say are I was wrong, I need, what is it? I was wrong, help. I need help, and Worcestershire sauce. But it's true.
Yeah.
Anyways, that's my side tangent on
that. It was a good tangent. Yeah, it was totally okay. Well, Jesse, thanks for taking time out of your birthday to share with us a little bit about your life. We're excited to do this again on your 38th birthday.
That's so weird.
I know, it's so weird. Hey, it's so weird. You still have a couple years of your 20s.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Oh, well, thanks for hosting this and for everything you've done for me over this birthday, and that you always do for me even when it's not a birthday, making every day special on all the different holidays and different things. So. Oh, we can get all mushy and weird at the end of the
we're gonna go eat donuts now because balance. So it's his birthday.
You have to enjoy your birthday.
You do.
You can't.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Come on.
Yeah. Okay.
All right. See you guys on the next one.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.